So we're going to do a few specific topographic map skills, and you can pretty much bet that in any exam where you get given a broadsheet, that inside it one of the sources is going to be a detailed topographic map, and that you'll get asked a few specific questions to do with that particular source. They don't put in a big detailed map for no reason. They're going to ask you a few tricky questions on it to try and separate the best students. So this one, we're going to start off easy. This is looking at contours and heights. A few important things here. Firstly, when it's speaking about the lines on a topographic map, it's talking about contour lines. And there's a few different ways that contour lines can appear. I'm going to speak about that in a second. One of the first things you can do, if the map, like this one, doesn't have a key or legend, this is just a little sketch map for the worksheet. Often when there is a key or legend somewhere down here, somewhere in there, it'll often say contour interval. And what the contour interval is the amount of distance there is between each contour line. So you can see in this case, this contour line is 20, 40, then 60. And so they're going up in 20-meter intervals. And that's up here. The difference in height between contour lines that are next to each other is called the contour interval. So it'll often use that terminology and expect you to know what it is. Usually, in this case, all of the contour lines are marked. Sometimes they're not all marked. What you can have in some situations, if this is 40 and that's 60, you can have another quite faint line going through here that is a bit thinner than the others, or even a dotted line, and it won't be numbered. Because that's 40 and that's 60, it'll just expect you to be able to work out that that line in between then would be 50, 40, 50, 60, and that they'd be going up by tens, but only some of them would have the number written in. Okay, so the ones that are in between the main contour lines, these ones get called supplementary contours. So by being able to count how many of those there are in a particular area, sometimes they help, because in places where you have lots of contour lines together, then you're going to know that the land is very steep, and where they're really spread out, like some of these ones down here, you know that you've got a pretty gentle slope, but we'll talk about that later. So at the moment, with this map, it says state the contour interval of the map, and we already said that. The main contour lines that are there go from 20 to 40, so these have a contour interval of 20 meters. They're going up in lots of 20. So just a reason why it has that contour interval, this looks like, other than the fake one that I've just drawn in, most of these contour lines seem to be pretty spread out, showing that there's not a whole lot of change in the shape of the topography of that land. It seems to just have a pretty gentle slope, a little bit steeper here where they're closer together, but that most of this land around the bay just has a gentle slope increasing upwards. So in this one, there's not too much detail in the topography, the shape of the land. It says, at what interval would we generally find supplementary contours? These are generally going to be halfway between the ones that are already marked in. And then, why do you think this map does not have supplementary contours? Well, like I said before, it looks like there's not too much detail that needs showing. It's just in most of the area a gentle slope, except for here. And because there's not much that needs to be shown, they're able to leave out a lot of extra contour lines. Marked on this, you've got a couple of dots. So some of them are just marked with a letter, and some of them have an actual number attached to them. These little areas that we call spot heights that are marked in sometimes get referred to in a question. There's a few different ways that spot heights are shown, and again, that'll come up in the key or legend. Sometimes it'll be by a trig station, a little symbol like this that surveyors use at the top of a mountain or somewhere. Sometimes it is just a dot, but again, always have a look down in your key or legend to see if the particular dot that you're being asked about is matched up to a particular feature down here, because different keys and legends can show different things. In this question, it then asks you about the spot height at certain locations. So it wants to know that you can read a topographic map and that you can read an area reference. So the spot height from the map in area reference 7748, if we go back down to the map and we go 77 and up to 48, it's talking about this box here because that's where 77 and 48 intersect. So it's talking about that box. And so straight away that one's already marked with a number. And so we can see that one would be 28 meters. Now, sometimes spot height like this one, D, does not have a number attached to it, but you can see that one's right on a contour line. So if you follow that contour line around and work out what its height is, you'd be able to write in an answer that D is at 20 meters above sea level. Now, mentioning sea level, down here you've got Fredericks Bay on the map, and being a bay, this is part of the ocean, and so the edge here, the shoreline all around, is 0. That's sea level, and so these other heights are all measured as 20 meters above sea level, 40 meters above sea level, and so on. So if you ever get a feature that is down at sea level, not at just a lake or anything else, because you can have those at any altitude, but anything that is down at the edge of the sea is going to be at 0 meters, and then it starts counting upwards from there. Sometimes you can have a dot that doesn't have a number attached to it, and it's also not on a contour line. So if this is the shoreline and this contour line is 20, you can sometimes have a dot that might be about there, and it'll expect you to try and work out the distance. And being halfway between 0 and 20, we can just generally assume that that would be approximately a height of 10 meters. And so you can sort of work that out depending roughly how close or far it is in either direction, close to a contour line. But generally, you should be able to also tell by other features if it's got written in there the exact height of a place or something that it's next to. Okay, so knowing that and the different ways that you can work out spot heights and heights of things on a map, I'm going to give you some time now to answer the other parts of 1 and 2.